Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BC, and you know everything. Alrighty, y'all, we're going to jump right in today. I'm coming in hot. Did a theta session this morning. If you don't know, hit me up. Hello at NicoleBZ.com. It's magic. It's instantaneous belief work. It's shifted everything for me, and now I offer it. But I do it with my clients. Anywho, it's a whole separate thing. Also had some acupuncture this morning. Also did a podcast interview. So we're firing on all cylinders. And I don't think I'm going to stop talking about this for a while. So a lot of you joined us during the musicians series this summer, where I talked about creative disruptors in music very specifically who really changed the game. Why am I obsessed with that? The game has changed. The game board is gone. The playbook has been deleted. And there's a lot of different ways we're all experiencing this. Some are absolutely getting hit harder than others. Those who don't seem to be experiencing much strife, I can promise you, my friend, they will. We're all going to be going through this karmic washing machine, as one of my friends likes to call it. Those of us who have been hit pretty hard already, I would love to tell you, you're on the other side. I'm not sure that is the case. But what I will say is you were building strength, you were building resilience, and most importantly, you were building capacity to hold. Because do you remember that scene from Braveheart where he's like, hold? I've sent that to a few of you, and I will continue to likely do that because we are likely experiencing the kind of shift that will be written about in history books for hundreds of years. Like we talk about the Dark Ages, I think people will talk about these as the end times. And those of us that are building, those of us that are creating, if you're signed up for the Loop, my weekly newsletter, you will know, can't stop, won't stop. Bought the t-shirt, have the hat. I want to help everybody understand how to build from the rubble, how to create something completely new, even though we have no idea how to do it, what that even means, or if it's possible. This episode I'm calling Burn the Map, a field guide to conscious collapse. I wanted to create this to help founders, creatives, and culture makers learn to let go and let what wants to emerge happen. Let it happen. That was in this. Okay, I'm not going to sing Tame Impala at you. I will say though that is exactly what came up in the theta session. I did not plan that. I wrote these notes last week. This is a crazy journey to be on. What if collapse isn't a failure? What if walking away isn't giving up, but it's actually the most intelligent move of your life and your business? What if strategy starts not with a plan, but with the courage to stop forcing one? I've made a lot of episodes about this. Do I say that in every episode? Just like I'm excited for this one. Planning used to work. The interview that I just did, we both talked about as founders and leaders and creators, like block scheduling. And everything was time blocked. Every minute of every day was directive and accounted for and purposeful and productive. I don't know about you, but that ain't serving me no more. And it is impacting my productivity and creativity. So this willingness to just flow, it's been an exploration. Dramatic pause. It's been a challenge. And on a podcast I was listening to, the host was saying, flow, surrender, letting go, these are not passive states of being. And in fact, they will likely be some of the more challenging, present, and effort. I don't want to say effortful because we each have a different understanding of that. But like for me, it's hard fucking work. And I have to continually bring myself back to the moment to remind myself, oh yeah, there is no plan. Nothing matters anymore. Welcome, my friend. Today's episode is not for the faint of heart. It's for the founders. It's for the artists, the builders, the rule breakers, the trailblazers, the visionaries, The people willing to walk the walk, those of you that take your dreams so seriously, you're making it your business. The ones who are tired, the ones who are traumatized, the ones who recognize giving up would actually be a hell of a lot easier. And quitting is probably the responsible thing to do yet. Yet it's our vision that continues to drive us, and it's outgrown our map. You don't need another tactic. You don't need another strategy. You don't need another service provider. You need a field guide. When you stop trying to fix everything, when you surrender not in defeat, but in conscious collaboration with something deeper, stronger, and more alive, you've arrived, my friend. And simply arriving is just the beginning. We've all come from this place of pressurized force, this inert productivity that has actually impacted us so negatively. We're fearful of getting that snowball rolling again because we're aware of where burnout shows up, how it felt uncontained and uncontrollable and unforeseen. And now nothing in our nervous system will allow for that level of trauma to exist again in our experience. We were taught to build, to push, to optimize, scale, raise, launch, iterate, dominate. You know, whether it was hustle culture or personal development porn. We immersed ourselves in a worldview that sees control as responsible, making as maturity, structure as sanity, and forcing as focus. But here's the paradox we're going to discuss today. And I know you've been here. I know you get this. I know that's why you're listening. So let's just recognize it. The same mindset that made you successful, everything that got you here in this moment, listening right now, it might also be exactly what's keeping you stuck, also known as the Icarus paradox. The wings that lift you become the wings that burn you. And even the research backs this up. Studies in organizational psychology show that leaders under pressure default to what worked in the past. If you've ever listened to my energy leadership debriefs or the podcast series that I did, we always default under stress because, of course, we're going to do what we know works. It's obvious. And it's also why it's not working right now. When things have changed completely, doing the same thing over and over again, as we know the definition, right? In organizational psychology, it's called a dominant logic entrapment. And in complex systems, it is fatal. Margaret Wheatley, who I talked a lot about in the management theory and emergent strategy and adaptive business, one of the OGs, if you will. And again, I'm going to be talking about this a lot, so we'll refer back to Margaret regularly. She put it very simply, and I love this. We can't be creative if we refuse to be confused. So what happens when you stop pretending you can will your way forward? I can tell you a little bit about that. This is the part that no one teaches us, especially those of us wired to produce. What happens when you say stop? It's not peaceful. It's actually terrifying. It's disorienting. I've experienced more shame in the last year than I think I ever have in my whole life. And if you know me, you'll know that like shame and embarrassment are perhaps so normalized for me. I don't recognize them. But I'll tell you, when I do feel ashamed is when I haven't done a lot, when I haven't gotten shit done. Letting go, surrender, flowing It activates what psychologists call identity dissonance, the collapse of the persona you've identified with, you've fused with as your role, your purpose. The doer, the fixer, the hero, the problem solver. I'm raising my hand. So to suggest or even play with this idea of not defining yourself by your output dissolves identity altogether. You're not just walking away from a plan, you're walking away from who you thought you were. There is a body of research called post-traumatic growth. It shows that trauma, yes, I'm talking about business collapses, plans failing, strategies falling flat, investors, partners, employees experiencing disappointment, career death, burnout, creative apathy. On the other side of those heroes' journeys, you might just discover higher levels of purpose, increased insight and intuition, and an ability to adapt that feels like a superpower. But, and this is a big but, those rewards cannot be hacked. That capacity cannot be created by taking shortcuts. And it's so interesting that this is coming up in this moment because I was listening to an audiobook the other morning. And oftentimes when I'm struggling to sleep, which is oftentimes, I will put on different audiobooks, kind of trusting that like I don't need to listen, I'm just going to absorb. And this line jumped out at me, and it was, "The devil lures you with desire." And I thought about all of the hacks that I love and all of the shortcuts that I've tried and all of the insane risks that I've taken, all because of desire, all because there was something I wanted so bad, the ends justified the means. And I don't want to say those were my regrets, but what I will say is those collapses, those failures, that shame has 100% led to a new understanding of purpose, a new level of leadership, and this adaptive, emergent, intuitive knowing that could not have existed without those obscene ne'er-do-wells, never to be repeated again. Never say never, right? In one study published in the Journal of Positive Psychology, something else I've been referring to more and more, participants who experienced trauma and engaged in cognitive reappraisal, we might call this shadow work, they reinterpret the meaning of the trauma, and in doing so are significantly more likely to report growth, creativity, and even spiritual awakening. To put it in a different way, louder for the people in the back, when we stop fighting what's dying, we make space for what's trying to be born. I learned a whole new understanding for letting go and flowing and surrender this year. And it was incredibly painful. So painful, in fact, that I didn't have another option. I had to go limp. And I reclaimed this sense of power. I had never resonated with the word surrender. I mean, it truly does feel like admitting defeat. It is, but not for the whole dang game, just for this one iteration, this one round. And that's okay. I mean, what I'm suggesting here is that's actually the hack, the shortcut, like the cheat code is just going, oh, fuck, this really didn't work. Moving on. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning everything. It means letting life have a say. That requires practice, awareness, willingness. You know, I spent the last few years on this podcast talking about you know everything. You create your own reality. You have agency in every moment. You get to decide where your energy goes, what energy is going to be most useful to you. Again, level 1, level 4, level 7 even. What will serve? What will connect? What will bridge the gap for you between current reality and desired reality, and not in the way that I was thinking about it previously. And you live in a big fucking bad ass world. I've never experienced that so distinctly as my little disaster experience, because for people literally across the street from me, it was a blip on their radar. It did not affect them physically, financially, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. They just kept on keeping on. They were able to support and impact and help. One of them just gave me their car. I didn't even know their names at that point. We're all playing our own games. The question is what are you playing for? So I hear you. How does a high functioning, let's say it, highly intuitive, empathic leader, someone who has defined themselves through output, through externalized metrics of success like income and influence and respect and love and connection and service, how do you surrender? Yeah, I want to know the answers too. So, presencing. I just made that verb up. You're welcome. Although Otto Scharmer's theory U says before you act, you must observe, feel, and let go. Presencing means entering a space of listening without rushing to fill it. It's hard. It's holy. It's where emergence begins. So often in my client work, they'll throw a contract or an email or a presentation or a particularly hard conversation across my desk and ask, what do you think? What should I do? It's never for me to tell anybody. And I will ask them, what is your intention? How do you want this to be received? From there, we can workshop it. Do you feel like the receiver of this particular asset will get it? Are there different words? Is there a different energetic state that can be embodied? Did you create that from this embodiment? These are ways we can allow for clearer reception in terms of our signaling. So presencing. Observe, feel, and let go before you act. Like I say, it's always the energy behind the action, right? Ritualizing rest. So I've started to use the word ritual in replacement of discipline or planned. To me, it still feels very repetitive. To me, it feels very reliable. To me, it feels forced. As in, I'm doing this regardless of if I want to or not, because there's something in this structure that is deeply supportive. And I think what's also pretty cool about ritual is the more it is repeated, the more powerful it becomes, but the more it is shared, the more you can draw on that collective power as well. When I say ritualizing rest, I don't mean like light a candle and take a nap. Could be dangerous. But I do mean honor the space between work like you would when you light a candle and pray or journal. Making that process of presence special is like a dedication to yourself. So create a micro habit, if you want to put it into productivity terminology. A day each week, 15 minutes each hour, you pick. But where input is not the game, it is simply reflection. How long can you be quiet for? Not look at a phone, not talk to a coworker or a partner, not read or listen, just be. It might be 5 minutes. It might be 3 minutes. It might be 90 minutes. Like I said, there's no agenda. There's no working. It's just silence, potentially an internal dialogue with yourself, but leave the page blank for those few minutes. Feel free to capture what's come up once you've hit that space. But by creating and repeating that intentional rest, you're going to discover new. And I don't want to tell you what. No spoiler alerts here. But this is how we flex. This is how we rep with surrender, is just go limp for a few minutes. See what happens. You might just fall asleep. Probably means you're tired. But hopefully the next time you do it, you'll have felt rested and you'll go from there. Lastly, in this one, this one's going to feel real weird and has probably been one of the most transformative parts of my last. What was that? Something just fell. Are we still recording? Okay, cool. I love that happened in this one. And this is the one that I want to share the least. I want to participate in never. And also it's probably, like I said, the most transformative. Grieving in public. You'll hear all the tech bros talk about build in public. I'm talking about melt down in public. I was just interviewed on a podcast, and doesn't matter what it's about. I'll share it later. But I was asked to discuss, some of the fun that the last year has been for me, but also to be present in the moment and not necessarily bring the mess or the emotional grief that I was experiencing. And I said, look, I'm ready to do that in most capacities, but when it comes to the loss of my mom, I'm not in control of that. And I burst into tears at the most inopportune times. Then I used to get embarrassed about that. I remember last Thanksgiving, I thought, oh, fuck, I got to call mom. And then immediately burst into tears. I was in the checkout line of the grocery store. What is it about checkout lines in grocery stores? Have we all had a meltdown there? I've had multiple. Anywho, maybe it's just me. Now there's a wasp crawling out of my window. This, for whatever reason, nobody wants me to talk about this. Grieving in public. It is radical. It is wildly uncomfortable, not just for you, but for everybody around you. But share what you're letting go of in public before it's even gone. Grief metabolizes what others won't or don't and harden into shame. We're transmuting energy. We're transmuting that level 1 into level 3 and beyond. There's a reason why artists are known for manufacturing tragic circumstance, oftentimes and unfortunately through addiction and sort of abusive habits. And it's because there's something so fucking powerful about that grief and that tragedy that inspires. So as Beau Akamolafe says, he's one of the leaders on emergent and adaptive business strategy. When times are urgent, let us slow down. How do we get out of the default reactive level 2 way of responding to stress and crisis? You pause, aka surrender. Go limp. Let go. Alrighty, my friend, we've burned the map. So where now? Where to from here? Literally, how the fuck do we get there? What comes after the pause, the collapse, the let go, the surrender? The rebuild. It's what we're going to be doing for the next, who knows how long, for the foreseeable future. And this is why I applaud you for being here, for listening, for believing, because we are the ones that are going to create the new world without any fucking maps, without the cover to the box of puzzle pieces, without the script. We will rebuild from resonance. What feels right? I've been saying this the whole time as well. Strategy can literally be as simple as, does this feel good? Does this feel bad? I said this to a software engineer from Meta the other day who was telling me how overwhelmed they were. And I said, well, it's all just a matter of priorities. And they said, every single task on my to-do list is a top priority. And I wasn't going to argue that that's not what priorities mean, meta engineer. But what I did say, well, then if everything is that important, just let what jumps off of that list and excites you be the thing you choose. They didn't have an immediate response, but they got back to me a couple hours later and said they've never thought about their work or their purpose in that matter. And it was absolutely enlightening. It was like full permission to create. And they said they felt enlivened and were able to really tackle what was a freeze moment in terms of overwhelm. You can simply choose what resonates. It's all interdependent. It all matters. And nothing matters. It will all get done. That's what flow and surrender gives us. Look at Patagonia, one of our favorite case studies here for so many different reasons. But their biggest strategic pivot wasn't a campaign or a product. It wasn't a new idea or a new service or a new strategy. It was giving the company away. It's the opposite of what you should do. That's what's so challenging about the collapse is we immediately want to react. And the most counterintuitive thing is to take a beat. That's what level 1 and 2 energy is all about. Just take a minute to collect yourself, to find that safety and security, to find what feels like mine. What do I have agency and control over? And then we keep climbing that emotional ladder, that energetic ladder. Patagonia wanted to give the company away to Earth, literally, transferring ownership to a nonprofit for climate defense. That wasn't a decision made from a quarterly earnings mindset. That was emergent strategy. That was emergence in action. That was what resonated. That was coherence as a strategy. The founder of Basecamp walked away from VC funding, from scale at all costs logic, and chose smaller, slower, saner. Their retention rates, sky high. Their team balanced, their audience loyal. And let's be honest, these aren't business tactics. They're relational postures. I can't remember the name of the creative agency in London, but they win top creative agency in the world, top advertising agency in the advertising industry almost every year. And they recognized they could grow, they could make more money, but they couldn't do their best work. They weren't willing to sacrifice their best for more. So they kept it small, and they continue to be the best. Frederick Laloux said, you can't transform a company without transforming the people in it. We've presented the case. You're very aware of where you're at. You can see it happening all around you. And there are plenty of participants who aren't willing to play the new way, aren't even able to see these changes occurring on the level that we're talking about here, or simply aren't willing to make the adjustment. And that's fine. But for you, my friends, how can you play with this, test this, iterate on this when the whole point of it is don't do, be? So ask yourself, and this doesn't have to be a big or hard or scary question, what are you still holding up that wants to fall? Like, cancel something small today. Just do it. Cancel a meeting. Break a promise. Throw away something you don't fucking like anymore. And maybe it's expensive. Who knows? Throw out some food in your fridge, something you were going to eat for dinner. See what happens. I sent a fucking unhinged text message. This was a couple weeks ago now. Because I don't want to be that crazy girl. Yes, it was to a boy. And I fucking did it. I didn't want it to achieve anything. I let it sit for a week before sending. I knew it was the fodder of crazy ass bitches. It's probably on some Twitter account, X account, in some Facebook group called like Bitches Be Cray. I sent it. I didn't even feel good about it. I still feel like kind of a crazy person, but you know what? That's kind of fun. There's something very creative in that crazy. And it's opened up some new relationships for me. Is there a direct correlation? Probably not. Can that closing of one door be absolutely connected to the opening of another? I don't know, maybe. I don't care. That's not the point, right? See what happens when you delete it. Cancel it. Throw it out. And just let it be. No apologies. You don't even have to acknowledge it. Just delete the meeting off your calendar and see what happens. So that's one way you can play with this energy. So I've offered this one to most of my people as well. What's been on your to-do list for 3 months or more? Just fucking scratch it out. Write it on a piece of paper. Rip it up. It ain't happening. Give up the ghost. Okay? I don't care how important it is. It can't be that important. It's been on your list for 3 months. I don't care how irrational it is or irresponsible it is. Can't matter that much because you haven't done it. Okay? You're not gonna do it. I am gonna tell you in this instance, not gonna do it. It's a little Saturday Night Live quote for all your youth out there. Just let it go. Little similar to the first, but different. Here's a flip on that. Have you gotten a hit recently? Like, oh, you should, or maybe you could, or what about pull that thread? I was interviewing someone on my podcast and I got a little note like, oh, you should reach out to this individual who I haven't talked to in like 3 years. I'm going to do it. I got a hit the other day. I forget what I was doing specifically, but I was like, oh, it's time for me to do like my big seasonal shift of like, summer and spring clothes to fall and winter clothing. I got like 10 minutes into that activity and I was like, I don't want to do this right now, but it's still sitting. And I've just been like kind of chipping away at it. And I realize now like it's done. I just need to now put the spring, summer stuff away. And I like don't even remember doing it. It just kind of happened. So the like crazy, unnecessary, who gives a shit, will it even matter thing, follow it. DM the person. Pull the box out of the closet. Sketch the idea. Begin a 1-sentence stream. And then lastly, and I did this in a very overly dramatic ceremony a couple weeks ago, but write the obituary for the expired identity. The thing that you're holding on to that you define yourself as, like not being a crazy girl, that bitch is apparently gone. We're in our unhinged era. There are a lot of different ways of approaching this. I actually talked a little bit about it in the loop after it was the same day. The loop comes out the same day I did that little ceremony. And I'm happy to share with you what I did if you're curious. But close those doors. Bury the dead. Let the pieces of you go that just aren't you anymore. Thank it, acknowledge it for its service, all of those strategies and skills you've used up until this moment to get here. Thank you. We're going to try some new stuff now. Okay? So yeah, you were taught to read a map. We just burned it. So now you're being invited to feel the terrain, to become a topographer. You might be on your hands and knees with your bare hands feeling it out. Not because you're lost or you can't, you're not, but because what comes next isn't linear. It's not going to be on a fully paved 6-lane highway kind of road. Where we're going, we won't need roads. More old people quotes? You're welcome. So, did this resonate? Maybe share it with somebody who is also a world builder trying to read an old map. Someone trying to game an algorithm that isn't even on the same playing level they're at any longer. Someone who you might perceive as them thinking they're stuck in collapse, and really what you know is they're just in the creative process. They're in the chaos that creativity thrives in. They haven't failed. You haven't failed. I haven't failed. This isn't the end. This is a beginning of which we will experience many, many more. This is the resonant truth. This is the deep work. So yeah, let's pour some fucking gasoline on it and watch it burn. And we will build from the ashes again and again and again. That's actually the skill set that we're developing. So thank you for being here with me. I think you know where to find me. I'm going to be redoing everything. I know I keep saying that. It's to talk myself into it as well. So yeah, NicoleBZ.com. hello@NicoleBZ.com. The Loop, the newsletter, all those links are in the show notes. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for being here. Love you.